Get started. To respect everybody's time that has joined us. Today we're going to spend about an hour talking about Signworld. We've got a panel of Signworld owners that have joined us. Larry Foster, give us a wave and tell us how long you've been around and where you're located, how big your business is with employees and facility.
Okay, I've been around for 19 years. I am in my third location. I started in 1,700 square feet, moved to 4,000 square feet, and I own the building I'm in 8,000 square feet. I have 12 employees, and we'll do about 1.7 million this year.
Who are some of your biggest customers, Larry?
We do a chain called Pick and Pull, which is throughout the United States, Canada. We do have a company called Portable Church Industries, which is a local company, but they provide churches all throughout the United States. And a new player this year, one of my very largest, is Dana Corporation, which is a supplier to the automotive industry.
Very good. Alex Maurer, give us a wave. Tell us your set. One more second, Larry. The name of your business is?
Signs and More.
Very good. And Alex, tell us about you. Your name of your business and how long you've been around, how large is your staff, your facility?
So I opened 4 years ago. Our name is Spark Signs and Graphics. We're located just north of Pittsburgh. Been in this 4 years. I have 3 employees, and we have about 2,100 square feet. We're still in the our first phase.
Okay. And what's your expected volume to be this year?
Our goal is $1.3 million. We ended up at 900 last year.
Excellent. And a question I forgot to both of you. Alex, what was your background before?
My background was in advertising. I was director of client services for an ad agency for 20 years.
Excellent. And Larry, your background?
I was in retail for 27 years.
Helen McKinstry, tell us your story.
My business is Saber Sign Solution. We opened our doors a little over 2.5 years ago. We're currently in about 1,760 square feet, but I'm actively negotiating on a lease for 4,000, so I'm hoping I'll be moving into that later this spring. I have 4 employees. I'm shooting to make $650,000 this year, and my background was as a software engineering and business consulting with IBM before I made the switch to own my own business.
Okay. And who are some of your biggest customers, Helen, or what niches are you finding are the core of your business as you start to mature?
The ones that I find are growing into good, reliable, repeat, and fruitful businesses are property managers. I have 2 or 3 property managers that I do a significant, tens of thousands of dollars each in business during each year. Plus, they refer me to their new tenants, and so they're a great referral source in addition to doing business directly with us. And then I've picked up several local companies that they just keep bringing their vehicles. Every time they get a new vehicle, need to upgrade an old vehicle, we do a lot of vehicle wraps for them.
Excellent. And Alex, I forgot to ask you about niches and big customers.
So we don't really have a niche in terms of the types of signs. We do quite a bit of different sign types, but our largest clients are 2 banks. One is a super regional bank, one is a community bank, a private equity firm where we've been working a lot with their entertainment and health facilities, a local health system, and then lastly, senior living care. So really heavy on financial and health care. That's just how it kind of worked out this year anyway.
And you had a big project with one of those banks last year?
We did. We had a significant project with a community bank. We worked on a few small projects for them, probably starting in 2017, 2018 maybe. And then last year, they hired us to do a complete rebrand of 17 of their branches, which came out to be just over $300,000 from that one. And it lasted all year long.
Excellent.
And we put in a lot of hard work, but that was a great project.
Very good. Jack Werner. I was a Signworld owner myself for 10 years. I started in 1995. Started in 1,200 square feet with one employee. Ended up with a staff of 11 doing 1.3 million before the days of the internet. I wish I had the internet today. My largest customers were retail chains and restaurant chains. That was the world I came from, and went back to that. And I had about 15 customers, gave me 80% of my business. Ended up with a staff of 11. I then sold that operation, went into joining Ken Kint at the corporate office to learn his end of the business, finished buying him out 5 years ago. I'm now the president of Signworld. When I answer questions today, if it goes to my experience running a sign company, I'll speak to that. If it goes to training and policy and things like that, I'll answer from that perspective. Currently, Ken Kint is here on the call as well. He stayed on as our director of sales and still teaches sales class to new owners. He's having some internet problems today, and so Ken, let me know if you're able to connect and get in completely and help with this.
Will do.
A couple of quick definitions for you. For those of you that are either business coaches trying to understand Signworld better, or those of you that are looking at Signworld. Signworld's not set up as a franchise. We're set up as Owners Alliance. You know, a franchise is appropriate if the rule book is critical, because everything has to be done the same, but this is custom manufacturing. The name brand is critical if you're going after the masses, but we're going after small cores of repeatable customers. So operating as an Owners Alliance, the owners get the advantage of having all the help and support like a franchise, done a little bit differently, but no rules, no royalties. I think as you talk to Signworld owners, they're going to say that that was a big drawing point, that they could name it their own name, run it their own way, and yet still get the help and support. We also don't want you to confuse us with printers. Printers are the commodity items, the business cards, letterheads, catalogs, etc. Things that you can buy on the internet based on price. Because desktop publishing and e-reading, printing is a stagnant industry. We're doing graphics as well, but we're doing all the unusual things, the non-commodity items. Small as a postage stamp to the entire side of the building, but it's in many cases the application after we're printing it that makes it unique, that they can't just order it on the internet. We have to consult with them. So the internet's bringing us the leads, but then we have to work to secure the customer and consult with them. We're putting it on the vehicle, screwing it to the post, gluing it to the wall, sticking it in the ground, so not something that you can order just on the internet. I'm going to show a real quick slideshow, and then we'll open it up for questions. So bear with me just 1 second. Let me get my computer to cooperate here. Larry, let me know when you can see my desktop.
It's up, Jack.
Okay, thank you. So, Signworld Business Partners, we're not a franchise, we're an Owners Alliance, and we're full-service sign companies. We don't charge a royalty. We have no rules. This is like manufacturing. You're taking raw materials and creating a product, putting your name on it. 98% of the signs in the world are indoors. The average life is 30 days, and most are made of inexpensive materials. So it's that repeatable customer that comes back over and over again and saying, here's my next project. You're going to start with one employee, grow from there. Before you open, we're going to help you find a journeyman sign maker with 5, 10, 15 years of experience, able to design the sign, print the sign, assemble a sign, and install a sign. You'll start with one, you'll grow from there. We'll help you find them, we'll help test them. This is a one-location business, unlike many franchises where you have to keep adding locations, reinvesting, and on and on. You heard from Larry and you're hearing from Helen. They're going to move from a small location to a bigger location, in many cases buy the building. So when you're ready to retire, not have a business to sell, you got a building to sell, build equity. We're dealing business to business. We are not dealing with the consumer world. And so because of that, this is a Monday through Friday business. Closed nights, closed weekends, closed holidays, so you can have a life. Long-term, 80% of your sales should come from your top 20 customers. This is finding those repeatable customers that come back every day, every week, every month, and saying, here's the next project. Total investment is $210. That includes working capital to help fund the business during those early months of ramp up until you get cash positive. And after that, there's no royalties. We've been doing this for 32 years. We've got operations that joined us 30 years ago, haven't paid a dime since he joined. We've been in business since 1988 with no legal action. That's hard to do with hundreds of people and hundreds of businesses. We work hard to make sure that we're always okay. We're proud of that clean record. You're going to get outstanding support not only from the staff, but the 340, almost 350 Signworld owners. They're family. They talk to each other every day. They'll probably tell you that's the biggest advantage of Signworld is this camaraderie of other owners that are willing to help each other and support the business. We'd rather do peer support than top-down support. What sets us apart beyond the no rules and no royalties is a weekly sales training webinar. You're on a sales class every Monday for the first 2 years, either taught by Ken Kin, our founder, or by myself. If you follow what we teach, 50 to 90% of your businesses can come from your website. While you might have to do some networking and community involvement early on, long term, it's the internet that's going to drive the great majority of new business, and then you return many repeat customers. Owners do not make signs. You're taught how to make signs, but that's not your role in the business. You're there to build relationships with the customers and manage the projects. And we're the commercial sign company. We are not the retail sign stores that you see in the shopping center. We're not competing with Signorama, Fast Signs, and those. They're going after the small business customer who's very concerned with the price and needing it in a hurry. We're going after the bigger corporate customer. And customers like these are customers of Signworld. We're going after big customers that order from Signworld. All of these companies do work with Signworld Owners, and virtually every major company you can imagine in the country is probably doing business with a Signworld operation. It's a fun business because every day is different. Every product is different. A lot of the business models out there, great businesses as they are repetitious. We've got 40 operations that have hit our career club of 20 years and more. Larry's getting very close to that. We've got many in their teams. When we go to them and say, I bet you're bored, you've been doing it a long time, the answer is, I'm still doing stuff I've never done before. So ask yourself if you can have a business that is the same every day, or if you need to have that variety. So we're going to open up to questions. If you muted yourself, try and unmute just before we call on you. You can see your name on the right corner because when you're logged in. If I miss anybody, I'll try and come back and get everybody so everybody has a chance to ask questions. Bob Stein, you're up first. Go ahead and ask your question. Let me acknowledge you, and then I'll let each of the owners answer from their perspective. Bob Stein? We'll come back to you, Bob. Jeremy Pond? Hello, Jeremy.
Hello, this is Jeremy.
Go ahead, Jeremy. Ask your question.
So the first question I have, it goes around the differences in your revenue to employees. What would you, I guess, what's the reasoning behind that, or is it product mix based more than what? I just trying to get my arms around that because it seems like it's all over the board.
So Larry, you said well, part of it depends on the mix of in-house compared to subcontracted work. Larry, you've got how many people on staff and how many of them are in production?
I've got 12 people on staff and 6 are in production.
So of the 6 in production and you're doing $1.7 million in sales, you're at almost $300,000 per production employee.
Right.
Okay. And what's your mix of in-house to subcontracted?
I do about 85% in-house.
Okay. Okay. And Helen, what's your number of people that are of your 4? How many are in production as opposed to customer service?
2 of them are in production.
Okay. And you did how much last year?
$400,000.
$400,000. So you're at about $200,000 per employee at this point. Okay. Alex?
I have, again, I have three employees, actually 1 part-time, so 2.5. One of them is in production. And the reason that my revenue is higher than my number of employees is because I do outsource quite a bit. So the sign types that we did, at least in 2019, probably up to 60 to 70%, I needed to outsource because I didn't have the machinery. I just needed to work with partners who could do those types of signs.
Okay. Would you all agree that the biggest change between outsourced and in-house is probably your mix of production Production and where you're at between outsource and in-house?
Yes.
Okay. Bob Zeichman, do you have a question for us?
Sure. I guess you were talking about CRM that you guys introduced a few years ago with Zoho. Have you guys seen a change in your, or how has that helped you in your business?
Well, we have a business management software called Corbridge, which all of the new Signworld owners are using. Some of the older ones might still be on the forerunner of that, which is called Sirius. Those two companies have now merged and are working to put those two together. Larry, what are you using for your?
I use Sirius.
Okay. And Helen?
I'm on Corbridge.
Corbridge and Alex?
We're on Corbridge as well.
Currently, Corbridge does not have a CRM incorporated in it. They're going through a great big, hopefully in the next 6 months, they will have a CRM attached to it. Right now, it'll work with whatever CRM you're using. So, Alex, your CRM that goes with Corbridge.
I'm sorry, Jack. I didn't catch the last part of the question.
So, what are you using for your CRM that then attaches into Corbridge?
I actually don't have a specific program that I use for CRM.
Okay. Helen, do you have one?
Not really. We use Trello for project management and use that for how we track our clients as well. But it's not a true CRM at all.
Okay. Very good. Mike Springer, do you have a question?
Yeah, I've noticed in some of the YouTube videos that you get a customized signs, obviously, but like attaching to buildings or planting signs, other things like that. How do you outsource or figure out who's going to actually do the installation of applications?
Well, before we talk about the real complicated signs, let me help clarify that a little bit. Remember that 98% of the signs in the world are indoors. So when you're talking about outside signs, it's a small portion compared to the inside ones. And the inside ones are ground level and step ladder level, easier to install. Even many of the signs outside are ground level and step ladder level. Vehicle wraps are on the ground. So Larry, before you got your own bucket truck, and you had projects that needed to go high above ground, how did you outsource those? How did you find those suppliers to take care of that for you?
Well, a couple different ways. Our vendors know, you have vendors that call on you, that come in, and they know the industry, they know the people in your market, they can help you with that. But the first way I found somebody to do it was I needed a sign for my business. I was brand new, and I needed a sign that lit up, and so I had several companies in my market that I contacted. They came in, and it was like an interview, and I found out who I liked that way.
And as you help other new Signworld owners that come into the market after you, you're sharing with them some of those resources so they know where to go as well, correct?
Yes, absolutely do. We're training somebody today, and I told them that before he leaves, we'll sit down and we'll go through all my vendors with him.
Excellent. Helen, how did you find those resources to do those complicated installs?
Probably three primary sources. One was my employees, right? So the employees had been in the sign industry a while, and they knew of some good contract installers. The second was my vendors, which was already mentioned. And the third is other sign businesses in the area. So I've gone to a lot of trouble to establish relationships with a variety of other sign businesses, both Signworld and non-Signworld across the city. And they've often pointed me to great resources as well.
So you're saying the other sign companies in town aren't always competitors. Sometimes they're allies and resources.
Absolutely. Co-opetition. So, I rarely run into the instances where I'm competing with the other sign businesses. I am sure we are, but 90% of the time they're cooperative, right? We all have unique capabilities. We all have uptimes, in times when we're very busy, peaks and valleys, and they're a very valuable collaborative resource to us.
Very good. Alex, your thoughts?
So it's similar to the other two. What I did, and this was really coming out of the Signworld training program, is you're urging, Jack, is to go introduce myself to local sign companies, and that was really part of it. And you learn over time who's doing fabrication, who does install only, and then start forming partnerships. And I, much like Helen's saying, I don't really see them as competition. I see them as partner firms. That's how I describe them. And my clients don't really mind. I'm upfront with who I'm working with. They just want a really good job at a competitive price.
Good. Branstein, do you have a question?
Hey, on the slide that you had up there, about 80% internet, is that sales on internet?
Larry, of your business that you do today, of the $1.75 million you're going to do this year, what percentage of that is repeat customers?
It's between 80 and 90%. It's probably closer to 80, but it's pushing 90.
Okay. And of the new business, what percentage of it's coming through your website?
Probably 75% of it.
Okay. Helen, what's your repeat customer base up to now?
We ended the year right around 50%. We're growing year to year on repeat, and I would say of the new business, probably 80% of it's coming from the internet, digital marketing.
And Alex, what are your measurements?
We're around 70% retention, continue to do business with those companies. And then our internet is probably around 60.
Very good. Luis Benavides, are you there to ask a question?
Yes, I'm here. This is the first time I joined this group, and I have a question, several questions maybe. But how long?
If you can ask one, if we have time, we'll come back to more, but we want to give everybody a chance to ask.
Okay. What is the time does it take for a new startup? Let's say when you decide to move forward with it, what is the average time till you get either job one or you get established and you get a sale or first delivery?
So, Larry, from the time you signed a contract, how long do you open the doors?
It took just over 3 months. It was about 3.5 months because we didn't have electricity for almost 30 days. But about just 3.5 months.
And during that 3.5 months, did you complete any projects either that you did yourself or you hired somebody else to do?
We had some that we did ourselves. We did, banners and vinyl kind of jobs. But we were using our equipment. It was set up in my basement before I was able to get into my building, and we were producing some jobs.
How long did it take until you were cash positive on a month-to-month basis?
It was the 4th month that I was open.
Okay. And how long till you took your first paycheck?
5 months.
Okay. Helen, what about you? How long till you open the doors from the time you sign a contract?
So it took me about 5 months to open my doors. Finding the real estate and then building out were the two drivers there. But my first job was about 3 months after I signed the contract, so it was a good couple of months before we actually opened our doors. And so I partnered with other sign businesses in the area. I did a couple of jobs before we opened our doors, and I just sign companies.
How long till you got to cash positive? Now, I know you brought in extra staff because you wanted to have different lifestyle control. But without that extra payroll expense, what would have been your time to get to cash positive?
Well, throw me a curveball there, Zach. It may have been about 6 months in, 6-8 months in.
Okay. And how long till you took your first paycheck?
Probably late. It's been about 6 or 8 months. I've been paying myself a small paycheck since early on. It's not a very large one initially.
Okay. Alex, how long did it take to open your doors?
We were about 5 months, which was a little bit long just because of finding the right place for us. But I think it could have been shorter.
Did you do any projects, sell any projects before you opened?
We did. In fact, I sold one of my first monument signs right after I got back from training. We were having dinner with a few other people, and one conversation led to another, and he was opening a new retail plaza. So very early on, I had leads, and then worked with other sign companies, much like Helen, to fulfill the needs.
How long till you were cash positive?
I think it was in the 7-8 month time frame, and maybe around the same time when I started taking money out.
Okay, very good. Eric Norfleet, are you there? Hello, Eric. We'll try and come back. Jim Zabel, are you there?
Yes, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are, and thank you for your time today. I guess one of my main questions was more around the mix of work that comes through each business. And so in terms of average size of a job, in terms of revenue and time, and how do you measure that efficiency is really what I'm interested in.
So, Larry, when you started, you probably had a minimum order of $50. What's your minimum order now?
Actually, Jack, I don't have one.
Okay. And what's your average order size?
$925.
Okay. And is there a different average order size for your customers and products than the house accounts? Do you sort that out between you and others?
Well, our house accounts, our repeat customers, they're usually much larger dollar-wise. You know, a new customer I find often it's smaller dollars and they bill to bigger customers. But my existing customers probably are, you know, I would guess over $1,000 per job.
Okay. Helen, do you have a minimum order that you started with? Has it changed any?
Yeah, no, we were implementing a $500 minimum order, but then we had a couple of slow months over the holidays, which seems to be in our arena typical. So we've just decided that we're going to base whether or not we're taking an order based on our backlog. So we don't necessarily have a minimum unless we're getting really busy, and then we implement a minimum, which thus far has been about $500. And of course, it's an average job. So we do both outsourcing work for those larger, like a fair amount of in-house work, and our average in-house job is probably around $1,000. Average for an outsourced job is probably more like $2,500 to $3,000.
Okay, very good. Alex,
Jack, it's Ken. I'm back. Do you want me to? I can see everyone on camera plus the list. Do you want me to take over?
Go ahead. But before you do, Ken, I might as well introduce. I'm going to start a couple of slideshows, everybody, that have no audio to them. They're going to go on while we're asking questions. The first slideshow is showing you some of the facilities inside now, so you can see what the operations look like. Each very unique and different. The second slideshow is showing you what is a sign. What do we consider a sign? Both the things that you're able to do in-house with your own staff and equipment from day one, to the things you're going to need to outsource, to the things that you might not consider as a sign, some very unusual things that become part of our world. The third slideshow is showing you our wall of fame, showing you some of the unique projects that Signworld Owners do that, while they might start off with simpler things, they grow into some pretty elaborate things. So I'll go ahead and start those slideshows, Ken, and go ahead and start continuing the question.
Jack,
next one.
Where did you? David.
Jim Zabel was the last one. David is the next one. And then there's a couple people that did not reply when I asked.
Got it. David, go ahead, David. Please tell us your last name, David.
Yes, it's David Martinson. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to kind of expand a little bit on the last question about the ramp-up period. And I was just curious, I know you guys have to go back a little back in time, but that first year, when you wrapped up the first year, can you give me an idea of, not the gross revenues, but kind of the net profit at the end of that first year when you go back in time?
Larry Foster, if you can remember all the way back then, what was your first year gross? What was your first year net?
The first year gross, I do know. That was $252,000. And my net wasn't a lot. It was, I want to say my net was about $70,000 to $80,000. So it was probably only the 12 to 13% range.
Okay. Alex Maurer, if you can remember back to year one, can you tell us your gross and your net?
So my first full year was $255, and then Probably around 50 to 60 I was able to take out.
50 to 60. Okay. And Helen, if you can remember first year gross and net?
So my first year was 6 months, and I made just $30,000 the first 6 months, and I was at a loss the first year. But again, I hired 2 full-time employees the first year. Second year, I made gross $225, and I remember that my net profit was right around 10, 11, 12%.
Okay. Are you there to? So 22,000 to 26,000 roughly. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Can I give
Ed Ross?
Mine was
Sure.
my first year was 430, and I did just under 100,000 net profit. About a 24% net was my first year.
Okay. Ed Ross, are you there, Ed? Come off of mute.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'd very much like to know how you have worked with local convention centers and gotten their business and how profitable it is.
Larry Foster, any work with local convention centers?
Not so much convention centers. We have done business with event planners, which is a great business because they help people put on events, whether it be in their business or they go to the convention centers. But that's been a great customer.
Okay. Alex Smaller?
I think we've done 1 or 2 projects at our local down in Pittsburgh Convention Center, but I'd agree with Larry. Event planners, marketing directors, advertising agencies, which is my background, that has given us opportunities to actually do work within the convention center, but not work directly for the people who run the convention bureau.
Helen McKinstry, your thought?
Similar. So we have not hooked up with a local convention center, but we've hooked up with marketing guys who are in charge of putting together their events, and we've worked with them on events held at hotels where they're having to deck out, their hotel digs for convention space for 2 and 3 days for events. So it's those marketing guys that have been the big link there, event planners and marketing guys.
And Jack, when you ran your business?
Not so much the convention center itself, but as Abe mentioned, the ad agencies, the marketing companies, and then just a lot of companies that need trade show graphics themselves individually to go to trade shows. So lots of trade show graphics.
Okay. Beth and Steve Charbonnet, come off of mute, say hello.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I just was curious to know what they did before they joined Signworld and why they chose Signworld, and did they look at other franchises before deciding to go with Signworld?
Okay, Larry Foster, tell them the truth. You were a stock boy before you 27
years before I joined, I was a stock boy. But yeah, I worked for Kmart and for 27 years. I left Kmart as the vice president of operations. And I did look at a lot of different franchises, loved what I saw good businesses, clean businesses, but they weren't my business. It was a business that I would be running for somebody else. And Signworld offered me what I needed in an industry that I don't know anything about. They have vendors, they gave me equipment, the training, all the things that I needed to get going in this industry, but then it was my company. So that's why Signworld for me.
And Alex Muller, what did you used to do?
So I was worked for an ad agency my entire career. I left as director of client service. Our particular office was closed, so I went out looking for another job. But I also had a parallel track working with a broker, franchise broker. I did look at other models, but Signworld was the only sign company, and for many of the reasons others have mentioned, no royalties. The idea of starting my own business, the support,
the calls that I went on when I vetted Signworld and talked to people were very honest with me. There was a tremendous amount of upside, and I've seen that through my 4 years.
Okay, Helen McKinstry, what did you use to do?
I used to spend my life on airplanes. So I was a software engineer, director of an organization of software engineers, and then I went into business consulting the last 4 or 5 years of my career. And I'm an executive. I'm platinum for life on American Airlines. And my kids were getting into their teenage years. I knew they were not going to be at home forever, and I really wanted to get off an airplane and be able to be much more involved in my community and be able to spend more time with my family. So I chose Signworld because, I wanted a business that was not going to be nights and weekends. So while I still work long hours, my business is closed nights and weekends. And B, I really love the independence of the Signworld model. I wanted it to be my business. And yet, one of the golden nuggets, I think, of the Signworld opportunity is the owner network. So even though it is my business and I'm very independent, there's this amazing network of people with a lot of experience that you're surrounded by, and we tap into continuously. So really a great combination of my own business, but with a great support structure.
And Jack, what did you use to do?
I was general manager of a wholesale food distribution business, and like everybody else in Signworld, none of us had sign experience. We all bought into Signworld because of the business model itself. You know, for me, I made a list of 35 things that are important. Some involved what my daily life would be, some involved the economics, and some were personal lifestyle around it. And everything else I looked at got ticked off for one or several of those different things, and Signworld hit all 35. But it was really more than anything was that every day being customly different, being able to see the results of what you did, there's a reward factor to this. It's a happy business. You're helping businesses communicate with the world. You're not waiting for somebody's house to be flooded, mother to be sick, car to be broken. You're solving their business issues and helping them succeed.
Okay, we heard from Steve Charbonnet. Beth, do you have a question? Beth Charbonnet.
No, I think she's okay. Thank you.
All right. Ashley Bowman. Ashley, come off of mute. Say hello.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me?
We hear you fine. Go ahead.
Awesome. So I'm actually one of the inside sales reps with the 3M Graphics Group, and I do call on a lot of different Signworld franchises. I've noticed a lot of new startups in the last couple of months, and so just getting to know a little bit more about what you guys focus on as a market has been very valuable. But when I look at some of the things you outlined about the first year and the struggles of starting up that business and getting yourself established, what I'm wondering is what are some examples of the most valuable types of support that you've received from your vendors? And is there anything that you wish your vendors had done in your first year to provide better support for you?
Larry Foster, what's the most valuable thing you've received from your vendors, and what more could they do in your first year of business?
Well, you know what? The vendors are awesome. They have such in-depth knowledge, and it doesn't matter if it's one that's specialized. The one I just looked on the screen, and there was sandblasting. So there's a sandblasting vendor, and if you've got a question about that, you go to them. They know everything about it. They want to share that because they want you to sell their product, or they want you to buy their product if they're a wholesaler. So they've been great, and they help you with the industry. They help you with pricing if you need. So I would absolutely suggest that if you get into the business, that you go and visit them. Come into you, go over there, tour the places. They'll give you samples, and you'll learn a lot from them.
Alex Maurer, your thoughts?
Yeah, I have two examples. Vendors are huge, and one has to, a new business owner has to just make all the calls and not wait for them to call, but just reach out, because they'll give you the advice you need from what works in this situation, if it's vinyl, straight to really any question. One of our bank projects, we work closely with Grimco, which is a premier vendor, and they really helped us come up with a solution that saved the bank money. So we ended up looking like a hero. And Grimco really was the one who helped us come to that. So I've also been to vendors. We had a nice project with a Wahlburgers restaurant out of Boston here in the Pittsburgh market. I drove out to one of the Signworld premier vendors, Signsource USA in Lima, Ohio, from about 4 hours because I wanted to see their production facility, wanted to learn more about the special type of channel letter that had been specified, and they were absolutely fabulous. I still buy from them, and they ship it into me.
Alex Maurer, you dialed in on telephone, correct?
I did.
Could you turn your computer speakers off, please?
I'll work on that, Ken.
Okay. Guy, is that Guy Panouf? Are you there, Guy?
Hey, Ken. Yes, I am.
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Just more of a question to the group around kind of, how you go about pricing projects and margin. What your margin kind of goal is or target is for kind of the internal stuff that you folks do on a daily basis versus the stuff that's got to be outsourced.
Okay. Before we answer your question, Guy, I just made a faux pas here. I forgot Helen and Jack to answer the last question. So, Helen, I apologize. I don't have everybody on camera. I'm having problems here at this end, but I apologize anyhow. Helen, go ahead. Your thoughts on suppliers and what more could they have done first year?
So not only are they fantastic experts on what they do, and so I teach my newer employees, your greatest resource is not only asking us questions here in-house, but get on the phone with our vendors and our suppliers because they are a wealth of knowledge. I still do that today. But the other thing is a lot of our vendors and suppliers are great connectors themselves. And so in my first year, they were even introducing me to some of the people who were, the lobbyists with the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation as I was figuring out how to get my electrical contractor's license. They were introducing me to other sign companies in the area. So not only are they a wealth of knowledge in their product set and in, similar product sets, they're also fantastic connectors to other sign businesses, other installers and contractors, other resources across the state. So I can't think of something else that they could have done for me in my first year that they didn't do. I found them a tremendous resource.
Okay, Jack Werner, would you answer from being a sign company owner as well as the current staff training position? Go ahead.
Over the years, we've added to the supplier network. It used to be good, but it's definitely much stronger than it is now than it was then. We've got suppliers in 5 different categories. The first category are the equipment suppliers, not only initial equipment, but the embellishment equipment. The second category are the materials manufacturers, the 3M, the Avery, the inks, the vinyls, the plastics. The third category are the distribution warehouses. Grimco has 75 warehouses, and Fellers has 70, and in Glance it's about 50, and GSG has about 20, and Denko has about 15. So in every city, you've got multiple suppliers to choose from that are going to deliver the materials to. Well, next category are the fabrication companies that make the things that you can't make until you bring in that equipment. And the last category are the service providers, the website developers, the website enhancers, the insurances, the software to run the business, etc. So we've vetted them for reliability. We've arranged for the discounts, but we don't want to control it. If you want to buy out of the network, you're free to do it. Most signals probably start 100% within the network, and over time, they found some locals or others that they prefer in areas. Probably in the long term, they buy 75-80% to the network and 20-25% out. We have a website where owners post questions daily. Where do I buy? How do I price? How do I do? Most of the suppliers are logging into that, and they're helping in that form as well. Sometimes it's something that they make, and they can say, here, buy it from us. And other times they're saying, it's not ours, but here's where you can get it. So they're very vested into the program of helping the Signworld owners know where to get what they need and what they can do.
Okay. Back now to Guy's question. Guy, I apologize to you as well for getting myself messed up, but Guy, why don't you repeat your question for everybody?
Sure. So it's just more around like how on a daily basis you guys kind of approach pricing the various projects. I'm assuming like from the stuff that can be done internally versus the stuff that you've got to outsource externally. And I guess an obvious question, or just kind of a add-on to that, is are the one-offs or the one-timers, are you getting more margin out of them than you would your repeat customers? Thanks, Ken.
Okay. So, they all have a very elaborate pricing software system that they got as part of the Signworld package. Larry Foster, talk to us about how you do pricing.
Well, it depends on the item, but some of our vendors we actually have catalogs for, or not our vendors, our customers. We have catalogs for where they have multiple locations and they're all buying the same signs, but each location needs something different. So pricing is established ahead of time for them. Very large jobs, we often will use materials plus labor and figure out your cost that way. In particular, if it's a very large job, if it's got multiple components, that's a way that we would do that. And then the third way is we have our POS system, and everything is loaded into the POS system, and you do your query, and you're going to come out with a price, and then you look at that to make sure that, yes, that makes sense to me, and that's how we price it.
Alex Maurer, pricing.
In general, we shoot for 80% on something we do in-house and 40% margin on when we work with partner vendors. Those are general guidelines that we all have, my project managers have. And when we can get more, we get more. Oftentimes, if it's competitive situation, we might need to cut that a bit.
Okay. Helen McKinstry.
Well, that's funny because mine are very similar. So for in-house, we target 80% margin, and for ones where we're having to leverage outsource partners, we were in the mid to upper 30s, and we're on track to try to hit about 40% for those outsourced things. I will say that you're going to learn what your local market will bear as well, and we learned in our first year that vehicle graphics are a much more competitive market than other types of vinyl graphic work here in the Austin area, and so we've learned that we target a bit of a lower margin in order for us to continue to play in that market. We don't get the same 80% margin that we do for our other in-house work, but I'm good with that. But in general, that's what we shoot for.
Okay, Jack, your thoughts?
There's a lot of help and guidance. The pricing software is going to give you the industry standards, but then from there, if you have something competitive, as Helen said, you can go down. Other projects, you're going to learn that you can upcharge because the market will bear more. So it's a guideline, but it's not a control. You're in charge of it.
Okay, thank you. Brant Seaton. Brant, come off the mute, say hello.
Yes, hello. It probably depends on the size of job, but what's the turnaround time you guys like to actually quote a job? And then what's the turnaround time you'd like to usually have a job completed?
Larry Foster, that's a big question. Go ahead.
Okay. Quotes. I want to tell you that I want 24-hour turnaround time from the time I see a job to the time I quote it. Small, medium jobs, I can do that. Other jobs that are much more complicated where you have to put, again, many components together. You have to do some work on the design side to scale up to certain sizes. Those are going to take longer. And the important thing there is that you are reasonable with your time and your customer knows what that time is going to be. So I think that's the key to that.
Alex Maurer.
We very much try to turn estimates around within 24 hours, even the same day if we get the inquiry in the morning, because we found that helps increase the likelihood that we'll get the job. But as Larry said, there are instances where we might need to put a proof together. We may need to work with an outside vendor where we don't know the cost. But really the gist of it is we want to turn it around as quickly as possible. And then for the estimate, and then we regularly tell people 2 2 business weeks or 10 business days to turn something around to actually have it installed, unless it's a much larger project.
Helen McKinstry.
For the smaller ones that are all in house, we try to turn around within 1 to 2 days. For the ones that are larger, where we need to be checking on, this is for quotes, for, we need to get a quote from a mason for something that's a very custom job where we don't really have a good feel for what our vendors will price it at, that they might take us like 3 days or so. In terms of turnaround, it can be anywhere from a week to, if it is a much larger project where we've got some outsourced fabrication, we have to go through permitting. If we're building a monument sign from the ground up, those could take up to 2 months. But back to something that Larry said at the beginning, is all about keeping in constant communication with your client, setting expectations. So, if we're explaining to a customer, here's what we need to do with design, we then need to go through the permitting with whatever city they're in, then we're into fabrication and installation. We kind of walk them through the whole process, and they understand, then, that's all very manageable and it works out well.
Jack?
I think those are some of the advantages of Signworld. Because we have very elaborate software system to help us expedite that and do that, and a very strong network of suppliers, getting the quote back to the customer is expeditiously important. And the fact that we're not throwing numbers at a dartboard like our competition is, I think we're way ahead of the competition there. Then most sign companies are not owned by project managers. They're owned by a former sign maker who was a doer, a single tasker, now trying to juggle 20, 1,500 projects. So having a production management system means that no matter what the timeline is for the job, you're hitting the commitments that you made to the customer, as opposed to the customer going, when am I going to get the job? When are you going to work on me? So I think both of those really lead to the success of Signworld Owners in the system that we've created.
For all of our guests on the call, if you have more questions, could you type them in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen? Bottom right-hand corner, if you have more questions, type them in. Meanwhile, is there anyone that I missed? Anyone who is on the call that has not had a chance to ask at least one question? Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. It's VJ Lindani here.
Okay, VJ, go ahead. You have a question.
Yeah, a question around territory. I'm located in Canada, and the Signworld philosophy is you got lots of support of all the owners. A majority of the owners are in the U.S., so should I be concerned that I've got a smaller number in Canada, that I may not get the full support that the U.S. may get?
Jack, Werner, our president, why don't you start out with that question?
I really believe if the other Signworld owners more than 5 miles away, your support is coming by phone call or email. It doesn't matter whether they're 6 miles away or they're 2,000 miles away. I think I'd turn the question over to Larry. Will you refuse to give help and support to somebody because of the other side of the border, or would you treat them all the same?
Definitely would treat them all the same. But I have actually. There are many locations in Canada. I have trained. Actually, a couple of them have come to me for training, and many phone calls on how to do something, or what would you price something, those type of things.
Alex Maurer, have you talked to the Canadian Signworld owners? And by the way, up in Greater Toronto area, Jack, how many do we have? 10, 12?
I think we've got 10 in the Toronto market now.
10 in the Toronto market. Alex, you ever talked to them?
I have not specifically, but I would certainly welcome a call and talk with them. I actually have called Larry's team recently. They're in Detroit, so that's almost Canada, right? He's 4 hours away from me. I've called owners in California and really all over the place. We have a mastermind call, which are folks who started the business about 4 years ago. All of us are kind of in the same area, 5 or 6 of us who are on the phone every 2 weeks. This is what we drive it ourselves, and we talk about what's working, where can we hone things, and that's been a great resource. So I don't really think I do see the local owners. There are 4 other ones occasionally,
but I not so much. I talk to many of the other owners much more, and they're really far away.
Helen McKinstry, have you talked to the Canadian owners?
You know, I haven't talked to the Canadian ones, but I think that's just a statement of, you know, it's still a relatively small proportion overall. But I mean, location is irrelevant. You know, on my mastermind team, you know, we've covered all corners of the country. You had a guy up in Oregon, a guy up in New York State, somebody down in Florida, somebody in Southern California, somebody in Pennsylvania. And in my first few months, when I was putting out those naive inquiries about I need to do a sign that, you know, that is XYZ and I haven't a clue, I had Signworld owners just picking up the phone and calling me from all kinds of different areas across the country, volunteering to walk me through it. And when I reached out to people, I didn't look to see where they live. It didn't matter. So I have never found location to be a concern or even much of a consideration in the power of the network of the owners.
BJ, we will support you. All of us. We're a family. Okay, Ed Ross says, what have you found to be the best strategy to get more business from existing customers other than fielding their repeat business? Do you actively propose suggested signage for their brands? Examples. Larry Foster, take a shot at that.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, there isn't anybody that can answer it better than Jack, because he preaches it every time that he talks to you about it. Your best leads that you're ever going to have are your existing customers. You are supplying them because they're happy with you. So you ask them for the referral. They know people in their company. They know people in other companies. So they're a great resource for referral business, probably the best referral. And we do propose signage for large corporate customers. Not everything is their logo. So they have needs within their buildings, their vehicles, and that's why we have talented people on our staff. That's why through our history, our knowledge of what's available, and the creativity of the design staff, we help them a lot of times with not only what it should look like, but how to build it.
Okay. Alex Maurer, your thought.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. The question is, what have you found to be the best strategies to get more business from existing customers other than fielding their repeat business?
Okay, I'm sorry. I think I was so mesmerized listening to Larry that I forgot the original question. Honestly, so I'm not a sales. I don't have a sales background, although people would argue that when I was in advertising, I did a lot of that. But I was responsible in my old job for really working on organic growth. So we've really excelled at that here in my company. And it's not hard pressing. It's not giving them proposal after proposal, because I always hated getting those from other companies when I was in advertising. So it really comes down to do really good work and stay close to the customer, take them to lunch, meet them out on the job site, show them that if something isn't up to the quality that you feel it should be, you replace the sign. We replaced a window graphic the other day. They probably didn't see the nick in it, but we did, and we replaced it, and we're all about quality, and our clients love that. And so when they have new projects, they think of us. So that's been our key to driving organic growth.
Helen.
So I think the first thing is making that first initial impression, making it really, really positive. So we focus on client engagement and throughout the process. That goes a long way to building that relationship to start with. So if your clients have a great positive experience with you, that's the place you want to start, because they will remember that. The next thing we do is we like to try to follow up after a few months, just to kind of touch base and say, hey, just kind of curious, is the vehicle wrap working out to, is it giving you the mileage, no pun intended, that you expected? is that building sign getting you the attention you expected, just how things are going. So we try to just kind of tickle their memories, remind them that we are here. And another is that we try to focus on certain themes in our MailChimp campaign. It's a email campaign periodically to just kind of remind people that we are here and of the types of signs that we do. But if you start with that really positive experience, and then you continue to remind them, and the follow-ups are a great way of reinforcing that you're there for the relationship and for the quality of the experience. And that's been a great way. People come back to us and say, hey, thanks for reminding me. I've been meaning to come back and work with you. Kind of sticking in there, keeping on their radar.
Okay, Jack, your thoughts.
We're really trying to teach you how to become a strategic partner with a customer, not just be another vendor, another supplier. Change the whole process, as Helen has talked about. As Larry mentioned, we're really trying to teach you that everybody is connected to somebody else, and it's the power of no customer should be at dead end. Because we touch every business, every customer has a potential to get you to somebody bigger. We're also realizing that most of our Signworld owners don't have sales experience. We really have more ops people than we have sales people. So we're going about it not being a salesman, but being a strategic partner, and also teaching them how to become a problem solver, trying to identify all the signs that a business should have, helping them realize there's things that they're missing, things that they should have, helping them improve the signs they have. So we're looking at it from a consultative side.
Jack, we're over time, and we have 4 or 5 more questions. What should we do?
Why don't you just take 1 or 2 of them, Ken? Just grab, you have the list here, so just grab 1 or 2, because we do want to let these Signworld owners get back to the business.
Okay, Luis Benavides, I'm not sure I understand your question, but it looks like a good one. Of the 210 startup, how much is ongoing cash flow? Luis, if you're still there, can you come off and mute? And do you mean how much is a cash reserve? Is that what you're asking? And if that's
what is the working capital, ongoing working capital that's needed?
Yeah. Okay, of the 210,000, Jack, go ahead. You can answer.
The recommended number is 30,000 that you have in the checking account to supplement the sales during that several month period till you get to cash positive.
So that's part of the 210. It's 155 plus 25 plus 30 for a total of 210. Okay, Ashley might want to go sidebar with Ashley being a supplier and could probably give her some better and longer answers. Luis also asked, what is the average employee turnover? Larry Foster, how many years you been in business now, Larry?
19.
And do you still have your very, very first employee working for you?
I certainly do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Tell us about turnover.
I came out of retail where turnover was very high. You were constantly hiring. You just lost people all the time. This is the opposite end of the spectrum. These are people that come to you because they want to be in this business. It's a career for them. And I was thinking back the other day, somebody asked me, and I have not lost an employee in the past year. I've added people, but I have not lost anybody in the last year.
Okay, great. Alex Maurer, turnover.
So I'm in my 4th year, and I do have my original employee. She's our sign maker / production / install / designer. She's great. And I probably had 1 to 2 other people that just didn't end up working out. They were project managers over about 4 years. But other than that, my other project manager's been here 2.5 years. So we've had very good success. I think that's part luck and part I treat them well with spot bonuses, with a bonus at the end of the year, with, I think, very competitive hourly rates. So, it's in part how you treat them.
Okay. Helen McKinstry, turnover.
I have one of my first 2 employees is still with me. We haven't had a lot of turnover. I have had to let one person go who's in sales estimating position, and it just was not working out. But we work hard on culture here. We work hard on recognizing employees, and we work hard on culture. And, it really does help keep and keeping an eye on, what's driving them in the market, making sure that they're paid appropriately. And they really feel like they're part of a family here, that we're constantly learning, that we're having fun every day, and that they're appreciated. So we haven't had a lot of turnover.
Okay. Jack, turnover?
It's a career employee. Once a sign maker, they're going to be a career employee. So you got to hire carefully and nurture properly. People staying around forever. My second hire was with me 9.5 years later. I had others that have been around 8 years and 7 years and 6 years and 5 years, et cetera, when I sold. They weren't going to leave. Didn't overpay them, but treated them properly and cared about them. I had two guys. One drove 40 miles one way to work. The other drives 55 miles one way to work. Went past a lot of sign companies come into our operation. We made life good there. We want to thank all of you that have attended. Hope this has helped you understand us better. Larry and Helen and Alex, we appreciate taking time out of your busy day to share your experiences. We'll have another webinar just like this with a different panel of owners on Wednesday, February 28th, same time of day. Come and join us again and hear some of these same questions asked and confirm that the answers you got are accurate. Hear new questions asked. Discovery Day is February 21st. Following one is March 20th. Hope this has all helped you and hope you understand us better. Get back
Jack, let me add one more thing. Again, Ashley Bowman, I apologize. We didn't get to answer your last couple of questions. I believe I heard that you're a supplier. So if true, you might want to go sidebar with Dan Werner, our Vice President of Operations, and perhaps you might want to consider coming. So, again, thanks everybody. Sorry that I could not be on camera. I will figure it out. Be careful if you have an Apple computer and you download the next update that it may mess things up with Flash Player or whatever. So I'll figure it out. Bye-bye, everybody.